The world has been hijacked by a false light teaching, a false sense of what it means to truly be a spiritual, autonomous being. It's come to my attention over the years, and as I'm sure all of you have found in your own path, as you go down the rabbit hole, you continue to find and discover more and more things about this life and your life and this path that don't necessarily coincide with the general audience. And along that way comes the aspect of the shadow. The shadow is something that we have talked about. So many of us, there's been countless books written. There's been, I'm sure all of you by this point have heard of your shadow. And basically what the shadow is the suppressed parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to see, and we don't want to express. We don't want the world to see it, especially. So what we do is we lock it in a door, in a room, rather, in a giant mansion. Okay. If you think about a giant mansion, we all have hundreds of rooms. We'll say, for the purpose of this example, you have 100 rooms in this mansion. Inside of that mansion, within each of these rooms, each room represents an aspect of yourself, represents a quality of you, and that includes both light and darkness. What has happened within the spiritual communities, at least in my experience, is that it tends to be a little nuanced, and people have a hard time talking about these issues. They have a hard time truly stepping in and embodying this shadow because it's the part of us that we don't want people to see. So what we do is we wear a mask. We mask these aspects, and whenever we're around people, whenever we go out, whenever we go to these public events, we're masquerading as somebody that's not who we truly are, as a false aspect of ourselves. And the world promotes that. The world encourages that. And even though people might say, yeah, you need to express yourself. You need to be true to yourself. You need to be authentic. Right? That's what we've all heard. They tell us these things, but whenever you actually go to be authentic, you actually go to reveal a part of yourself, a dark aspect of yourself. When I say dark, I mean a suppressed part of yourself. I don't mean evil or corrupt. I just mean an aspect of yourself that you haven't expressed and that you haven't integrated. So whenever you go to express this to these people, your friends or a community, whoever it may be, family, you get shunned. And basically you are told to just get over it, to put a band-aid on it, and to just be light, to be a shining light for others. They tell you to press it down because they want you to be happy. They want you to be how they want themselves to be. So they project onto you what they want to feel. And this happens without us even realizing it, because we are all going through a lot. We're all going through so much in this life. There's so many responsibilities and obligations, and you don't know what the person beside you is going through. We have no idea the life and experiences of another individual. And so what we do is we project these aspects onto others based off of what we are feeling within ourselves. And so if someone comes to us and they're having issues in their life, they're having problems that they're needing to express, and they have this bundle of energy that they need to let go of, and you ask them how their day is, and they let loose. They just tell you that they've been going through this and they've been going through that, and they've been going through all these things. Do you think that they would want to hear, well, just be positive and it'll all work out? Do you think that would actually help them? Furthermore, do you think that would help you in that situation? Granted, there are some times when that is useful, whenever we need to reframe and shift our state. And that's a huge aspect too, and that's something I want to get into later, is state change. To be able to shift our state based off of the energy that we are embodying within ourselves. And it's possible, if you are feeling a certain way, to shift that energy. into a more uplifted aspect of it, to be able to see from the vantage point of how this certain circumstance is actually going to help you in your life, to be able to basically fly above it like the eagle, to be able to see all of the options expanded out for you, to be able to to be able to see all the options laid out before you. So whenever we learn to step into the shadow and embrace it and integrate it within ourselves, that is the moment that we truly transform not only ourselves, but the world around us. I'm Cody, and I help people to activate their divine consciousness codes that will ignite their heart ablaze and open the door to limitless possibilities. So I want you to imagine that you have 100 outlets on your chest, and each of those outlets represents different qualities, different aspects of you. If there is an aspect of yourself that you have embraced and integrated, then there's going to be a cover on that outlet. So you're not going to have a charge coming through that outlet. You're not going to have electricity flowing. But whenever you have an aspect of yourself that you have not embraced, what's going to happen is you're going to have an open circuit. There's not going to be a cover on that because it's going to be open for the world and for you to see. So what it does is it attracts the right people or circumstances in order to plug in to that. So say you have issues with your anger, you have issues embodying and embracing the anger that you have within you. What you're going to do is you're going to manifest, likely, a person in your life that is going to have a lot of anger, and they're going to come right into your life and plug right in to that outlet. And that is exactly how toxic relationships happen too, and codependent relationships, because you get this word's thrown around a lot, but we'll just use it for the sake of the example here. You get like a narcissist and an empath. And because those two dynamics oppose each other, they're like polar opposites. The empath is solely based on wanting to make themselves feel better by helping others. So they're not really filling up their own cup, whereas narcissists only really know how to fill up their own cup and focus on themselves. So they draw whatever resources that they can to themselves in order to fill up their cup, and they often get in this spiral where they're doing that, and that becomes like their way of thinking, basically. So these dynamics attract each other because it's polarity. And polarities, just like magnets, they create that tension. If you have a magnet that is trying to attract to the same pole as itself, a North Pole against the North Pole, what does it do? It repels. But when you get opposites, that's when they truly attract, because it's like they are plugging in to your circuit. So I want you to consider, whenever you are triggered next time, think about what it's telling you about yourself. Whenever somebody says something or does something to you that triggers you, what do you feel? What do you feel in your body? In that very moment, what is happening within you? And I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you are having trouble embracing within yourself? What aspect in relation to this that this person brought out are you having trouble accepting within yourself? Because what we do is we project the core parts of ourselves that are the most wounded. We project these out onto the world unconsciously, so as to reflect and mirror that back to ourselves so that we can heal. It's the mirror principle. We mirror back our reality. We live in a holographic reality in which we mirror back the aspects of ourselves that we wish to see. And on the flip side, while we also do that with the aspects that we don't want to see, we also do that with the aspects that we do want to see. So when you find somebody that you truly admire and you look up to, all of the qualities that that person has is the same qualities that you admire within yourself. You just haven't brought that out within you yet. You haven't stepped into that fully yet. So you are projecting your own greatness, your own abilities, your own characteristics onto this other individual that will in turn mirror that back and reflect that back to you to help you see that it's possible. And it works both ways. So it's very important. That's why it's so important to have the right people around you, to have the right community, to have the right tribe that truly supports and encourages you and has that same vision as you, so that you can move in the direction of your soul's calling. As we move more towards that, this magnet that we are essentially magnetic electrical beings. So that magnetism that comes from the core of your being begins to radiate and ripple outwards to the point where you begin to attract the right people into your life. You begin to attract the situations that will open you up and expand you in the deepest ways possible. And once we truly heal the aspects of ourselves that we are projecting onto others, that is when we really start to magnetize the things into our lives that we truly desire, that our soul is calling us towards. Once we step into that and we embrace and integrate that shadow within ourselves, we become an unstoppable force in pursuit of our highest calling, in pursuit of our dreams. So next time that somebody triggers you, ask yourself what it is that they are showing you about yourself. Because it's very important for us to see that. Oftentimes, the deepest aspects of ourselves are hidden from ourselves. And within that darkness, that's why they call it the shadow, because it's hidden from our consciousness. It's hidden from our conscious existence, our conscious awareness. We aren't aware that it's even there most of the time. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we're aware of it and we deny it anyway. But I'd say at least 90% of the time, we aren't even aware. And this especially comes out in relationships. This especially happened to me in my most recent relationship. Whenever I got into this relationship, there were so many aspects of myself that I thought I had healed, but that were hiding in the darkness. And the traits and characteristics that she exhibited caused me to step into this part of myself, this wounded part of myself that I hadn't integrated and accepted yet. And so we began to have this back and forth, and it caused this ripple effect to where it was like, in a way, it almost felt like we were acting unconsciously. And I would do and say things, not really hurtful things, but I would almost like disassociate to the point where it's like not even me talking. And when I look back on these memories, it's like that doesn't even feel right, because it's like I look back and I would remember the words or whatever I said or did or whatever it was, and it was like it felt foreign, like I was watching somebody else. At least that was my perception. That's more of an advance when you get to the point where you're so overwhelmed and you just shut down, and your shadow takes over to the point where your unconscious programming begins to run you. And so I started to, for me, I would disassociate a lot. I would be very aloof. So I would just like beat around the bush. I didn't want to be direct. And so it was very hard for me to communicate honestly how I was feeling. And so, there were times where people would message me and I would message them back. And because of how I was feeling within the relationship, I wouldn't say that I was in a relationship or like claim that. And it would come across that I was being more open for, other females to come in and disrupt that dynamic. And so it was very difficult for me because I could not even understand why it was happening. There was this part of me that was like, I could see what was happening, but it was like I couldn't consciously do anything to stop it. It was like in the moment I didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing or saying, but then looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? That's not me. That's totally, I've never done anything like that, and I mean, I never cheated or called names or anything like that or was abusive or anything, but it brought out aspects of me that I realized I had suppressed and pushed down. And until I got into that relationship, and also I want to say too, it brought up a lot of mother wounding that I had. I had two moms growing up. I had a birth mom who there's a lot of abandonment issues around with her that I dealt with, being left at a football field. So that was very traumatic for me. And my stepmom, she basically raised me, and I knew her my whole life. So she was who I saw as my mom. And I had healed a lot, pretty much what I feel like 95% of the issues that I have with my birth mom. Being left at the ball field and everything. And as an adult, I was able to come back and integrate and communicate with her and really, truly connect with her. My stepmom, I was always really close to. And so before she passed, I didn't realize that there was still a lot of healing that I had not done. And this relationship brought that out of me. All the aspects that I'd suppressed, all the woundings that I had, even from my stepmom, because our parents aren't perfect and our parents are doing their best. But oftentimes with that comes wounding, because as children, we don't understand and we take it personal. But not only that, but we have to survive. So we adapt in order to survive and make it through whatever it is that they're putting us through. Whatever it is that they're going through, we're also going to go through that with them in a sense. Either they're not going to give us the attention that we need, or they're going to give us their own attention and make us feel like we're doing something wrong. So shadow integration. It's very important, and our deepest relationships are going to show us who we truly are, the aspects of ourselves that we are hiding, and the aspects of ourselves that we have not yet to step into. At least the best relationships do that. They not only bring out the best in you, but they're also going to bring out the worst, because it's a polarity. That polarity is what's going to help you to see and perceive the full spectrum of you, of who you are. There's the light and the darkness. And without both, you would not be a whole autonomous being. You would not be who you are. And it's important for us to recognize and remember and reconnect with these aspects of ourselves that we have shoved into the closet and we have shoved down and tried to forget, because those are the aspects of us that we ultimately need to embrace if we wish to become the versions of ourselves that we want to become. Within that wounding is our deepest treasures. Because oftentimes the wounding that we receive and the trauma that we go through becomes the medicine, becomes the gift that we give back to the world, becomes the gift that we are able to give back to others. And as we step more into this and heal, we're able to see and understand a deeper aspect of ourselves, so that we can step into that and give that back to others. And that's what this whole journey is all about, is learning how to have compassion for ourselves and be able to step into that without fear, without judgment, and embrace the totality of ourselves. Until we do that, we're not going to be able to embrace the totality of the world. And we're going to constantly be fighting within ourselves. There's always going to be conflict within the world, because it's going to be projected out from within. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the inspiration that I got for this video, which I wanted to touch more on, but actually I went off on my own tangent, my own experiences. But a lot of the outlet example and other things I got from this book. It's The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. It's an incredible book by Debbie Ford. Ford, read by Neil Donald Walsh. It really puts into the framework how we truly suppress these aspects of ourselves, because even understanding what the shadow is and understanding how we do that, it's difficult sometimes to conceptualize and to truly see until we can get other examples. And Debbie puts it into a really good framework here, where she's able to see different aspects of herself that she wasn't embracing. So I'm going to touch on this more in the future, and she also has some great examples, some meditations to do. So yeah, we'll be delving more into that in the future, and also wanted to touch more on archetypes, because that's something that's very important that I haven't really delved into much yet. So the core structure of us as individuals, as humans, often comes from an archetypal structure based on certain core aspects that we would call a mold, like a framework. So it's like a giant melting pot of energy, basically. There's this giant melting pot of energy, and we are in this mix, this soup of energy. These archetypes represent within us the different frameworks for which we often embody, and there's different archetypes for which we can represent. Now, everybody is different within the framework of that archetype because of the different aspects of ourselves and all of the variations and the astrological signs and all the DNA, everything that makes up who we are. But within that, there's a framework, an archetype from which we embody. And it's important for us to understand the different archetypes and that we possess all of the archetypes. I want to say there's 12 archetypes. I mean, there could be more, could be less, depending on the model that you're looking at. But we'll, for the purpose of the example here, say there's 12 archetypes, because 12 is often a wholesome, complete number. It's the number of cycles and also the number of soul fragments that we often possess within each density, which I'll discuss that in the future as well. So it's important for us to understand how we embody these 12 pieces of the archetypal energies. With that being said, my friends, I am eternally grateful for you. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you here, going through this pilgrimage together. If you're looking to go on a pilgrimage in your own life, to step into that fire and harness that within yourself, I encourage you to check the links out down below for coaching. I do coaching to help people step into that, to discover their own life journey, their own hero's journey through this life pilgrimage. So if you're interested, check that out down below. And besides that, I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Peace, love, namaste.